What's up, everyone? Episode 5 of the Creative Attribute Podcast. Thank you guys so much for staying with us and sticking with us through this journey. Plenty more to come, of course. We have a nice, brand new guest, the one, the only, Andreas! And I don't know your last name. Andreas, thank you so much for stopping by, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone that's listening, to everyone that's watching. The floor is yours.
Well, thanks for inviting me. As you said, my name is Andreas, that's right. And basically I write music, I compose music, I produce music, and that's been like my hobby or my how do you say?
What, 10th year, 5th year? How long have you been doing it for?
Actually, for like the most part of my life. So I've been playing instruments for a very long time. Like writing music, not so long, but like basically I've been involved in music for like more than 25 years, I guess. Over 20 years at least.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been a big part of my journey.
And for those that don't know, the music that has been playing in the background for like all the episodes, that's the beat that Andreas produced. So the song that you're hearing right now was produced by Andreas for my webcomic, and then there's another song that will be introduced in a few weeks from now, another beat that he made. So we've been working together. He's been creating music for over 20 years. Phenomenal artist, like phenomenal creator, I should say, in general. So thanks again for that beat. So when would you say 20 years ago you started making music 20 years ago? Was it because of like the songs or the movies that you were watching? Like what kind of inspired you to create music in the first place? Or art in general, yeah.
Well, first of all, like playing music in general, because I liked a lot of bands. Basically, I can't even describe what my biggest influence is. It's just like all over the place, from pop music, rock music, and then classical music, and the list goes on. So I can't pinpoint that out like a specific
like a specific
group
or something. Timeline, but
yeah, it's difficult, but it's always been like like you have friends in school and stuff, and they like also like music, and then you get together and try some things out, and then just after a while I became interested more and more into like basically producing music for, let's say, like games and movies, because it was for me like very interesting to like create music for a big project where you have like a lot of influence when it comes to the end product. And I always thought that it was like basically when you have like especially like single player games or like movies, then obviously music plays a very big part. So it became a very interesting thing for me, and then I was watching all kind of YouTube videos how to get started, and then after a couple of years
that actually leads me to another question. How to get better at your craft. So you started, it's like kind of like how everyone kind of gets introduced to music, either by family, by friends. You hear different types of genres, and it piques your interest. Right. So when you decided that, hey, I want to, instead of just listening to music, I want to be able to create. I want to be able to create the emotions that I feel a certain scene could use, or I could it's like creating a story. Every song that you make is kind of like a story in a sense. So how is it when you first started, how did you learn to get better, aside from like practicing? Like, was it tutorials on YouTube? Was it friends or family that taught you certain techniques? Well, how did you like improve your craft over the years?
Well, first of all, for me it was kind of like a challenge. So like listening to music and appreciate it is like one thing,
Yeah.
or just replicate it on an instrument. But then I was thinking like, okay, like it's a completely different thing when you try to create your own stuff, right? And it was for me like a challenging thing, like to say, okay, can I actually do something similar? What I'm listening to? And so I tried basically different things, and then I watched. Well, I had some teachers, obviously, like when it comes to, for example, I had
In like
like
high school,
piano.
or did you like?
No, it was like private lessons,
Okay.
like
Okay.
for piano and guitar, and they taught me some basic stuff.
Mhm.
But then when it comes, obviously, like when you write music on your computer, then obviously it comes down to like all kind of different software and plugins and all this stuff. So I had to like read forums and watch YouTube videos. So it was basically the major learning process where basically then online try to research all kind of stuff, how to get better. Well, there are two parts basically. The first part is actually write music, and the second part is, let's just say, produce the music you want to like first the stuff you have written, then to produce the stuff on your computer. So like arrangement, all the different sounds you want to create, mixing and so on. And obviously then this is actually, I would say, often even the challenging stuff to create the music on your computer, because then you have all kinds of difficulties, like if you want to create a specific sound you have in your head, and then to replicate that on the computer with virtual instruments, it can be very difficult. So yeah.
It disconnects. So it's like you have something in your head, of course, you're visualizing it, or you're playing it over in your mind, and then doesn't necessarily translate in the actual while you're doing it, or the end product. When I'm
Right.
writing a new chapter, or I'm writing like even like promotional material for my comics or for my website or whatever. Let's stick with chapters. So when I'm writing a new chapter, I have like the scenarios in my head, right? The action scene or the dialogue in my head, either while I'm laying down or I'm sitting on my computer at my computer desk and I'm writing it out. Sometimes it plays out exactly how I imagined it in my mind, and sometimes it's like, okay, when you actually like write it down and you actually see the flow of the sentences, it's kind of different. You have to switch it up, make it easier for certain audiences, make it harder. And the biggest disconnect for me is when my artists are actually drawing it and then I get to see it, how it plays out. Then I'm like, yeah, actually, no, we would have to. Then my artists, half the time they tell me like, no, this won't work out because of like the area that they're located in, or the dialogue between these two people, kind of the flow is kind of off. So it's kind of like how I envision it doesn't necessarily translate to how it's actually created and the end product.
True.
So it's like, I think over time you kind of get better with that, and I don't want to say simplifying it, but you get a better process of how you do things over time, and I guess that comes with experience. So
Absolutely.
so what kind of music are you currently making that kind of like, that you kind of, because you mentioned before that you're doing stuff for movies and games, so you kind of with the orchestral vibe. What type of music are you producing currently?
Well, right now I'm working on also like on an orchestral piece.
Yeah.
It's basically oriented towards like an action scene style. Basically like very adrenaline packed, and I'm still working on it. I have like 1 week left or something like this.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that before.
Yeah, so it's we'll see. I'm quite I'm not sure how it will turn out, because right now it's just like the information I have about the project I'm working with is like very bare
Vague.
bones.
I got a question.
Yeah,
I got a question. I got
yeah.
a question. Sorry for cutting you off. So you've worked with me on a few projects. I'd say last year, the later half of last year,
Mm.
we worked on a few things, and of course, you're working with someone right now. How, and it varies from customer to customer, client to client. Um, is it better for you if someone gives you like a 13-page document explaining well, what type of music, like the environment that the so let's say it's for a game, right? So there's an action scene. Would it be better for
Hmm.
you if the person explained every little detail about like, hey, this is what's happening, this person's attacking, this person's defending, this magic spell's happening, like a full script? Or would it be easier if the person said, this is a fighting scene, these two people are fighting, you have full creative control, like, is it, I don't know, is it easier for you to make music when someone gives you like a step-by-step process, or is it better if you have full creative control and they kind of give you, you know, a few little tidbits here and there, like a few little
Well,
details?
obviously, the easiest thing is somebody just says, "Make music and I will use it." This
how
is the
how
easiest
how would
thing.
that affect, like, how would
This,
that affect the actual song though? Like, would it
yeah,
restrict
I mean,
your
if
vision?
you have a lot of details, then basically it's restricting you more and more, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, it can be very helpful because you don't want like, well, the worst thing that can happen is basically you write something and you in the end it's like a scene where it's just absolutely out of place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely helps if you have a lot of information, because then you can basically visualize what the scene will be, or maybe you already have the scene and then you can write music which basically fits the scene. Also, it can be also helpful if like the, let's say, the producer or the main guy behind the project, if he has a lot of details about
Mm-hmm.
the whole project, then it can be also helpful. I mean, but like for me, obviously, if you have the option of just writing music without any restrictions,
Mm-hmm.
this is obviously like the best thing, because then you have let's say, you know, like um, creative freedom, right?
Yeah, I think
Then you
it
can do whatever.
varies. I guess that's just with any clients or any business that you're in, or many different businesses that you're in. It's kind of on a per client basis. So if this person, you could tell, like, they give you very little details, bare bone details, then you're kind of like, oh crap, I don't think I'll get much from this person anyways. Let me do my best to make the beat. Or that you might have a different
Yeah.
client or different partner that's like very detail oriented and they provide every little detail. So I guess it's more so like adapting to each client, and then
Yes.
rather than like a generic one answer fits all.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
And also, it's it depends. Let's say somebody makes just like I don't know, like a game where the music is basically just background stuff. Like and he's like, okay, it's a shooter, and while you're running on the battlefield, make some background music. Normally, you don't need too much information about that, right?
Yeah.
It's very basic stuff. Like, but if you have, let's say, games like, I don't know, Skyrim, right?
Yep.
So you have like even like cutscenes, then this is like a completely different story, right? So you have to write accordingly to the, you know, if you have like a cutscene, then there will be obviously different music than you just like if you like roam around and, you know, just loot areas, or I don't know. So yeah,
So it does. I think the biggest skill is obviously having the skill to create the music in the first place, but adapting to
yeah.
each each environment, each project. Um, now, are you the type of producer, type of artist, type of creator, I should say, that do you like to focus on one type of genre of music? Like right now you're doing fighting scenes. You have your own projects, but are you open to different genres of music itself, like hip hop, or maybe like I don't know, like what's some of the bigger genres of music do you like to make right now currently? Like, are you only focused on an orchestral, or are you focused on hip hop as well?
Actually, I have no
Action
really like
scenes.
yeah, it's very much basically, well, it's like what I'm listening to. I'm listening to all kinds of songs if I like them. I don't have like I'm a metal guy, I'm a classical guy or something like this. If I like the song, it can be whatever. It can be like free jazz.
Yeah.
Normally, I don't listen to free jazz. It's but if it's like a very interesting, song, I don't care. But it's the same with like writing music. If I have like an interesting idea, or if I'm working with somebody who has like, let's say, an interesting idea for some R&B or some soul, or why not make an interesting song out of this? So I'm
Because I know some people are like, there's some producers that I've worked with back when I thought I could rap, back when I was a rapper or whatever you want to call it. Like, I met a lot of producers that are only interested in trap beats. I guess it doesn't matter, right? It's their preference.
it,
They're only interested
yeah,
in trap beats, or they're only into like old school type beats. But I personally think like the more, obviously it's subjective. Like, I'd rather have more options than just limiting myself or focusing myself on one thing. I'd rather be proficient in a
yeah,
few different fields. I don't know, but to each their own. Some people like trap, some people like that. So I can't force them to make
yeah.
a romance
Well, the
song.
thing is,
If
um,
But if you want more
it's I
jaw, I
think,
don't know.
yeah,
It's difficult.
it's just, I think it can be, well, let's say you are some guy who is just making beats for, I don't know, let's say hip hop.
Yeah, hip hop. Yeah.
The thing is, it can be also a very a good thing when you just focus on one thing, because then like everybody who knows you knows, oh, he's the guy who's making this stuff. If you're like all over the place, the danger, the problem might be that if somebody knows you, he's like not certain, well, are you like more into like rock music or pop, or what are you doing actually? So maybe like the next time he needs music in a very specific genre, let's say,
Yeah.
he might go to somebody else where he knows like, oh, this guy is literally doing only this stuff. So it can be actually like
Double-edged sword.
so yeah, sort of a negative thing if you are like doing all kinds of stuff, because then nobody knows like what are you actually doing.
There's a clicking
It's,
noise, and I don't know what it is. It seems like it's hitting your microphone. Is there anything around it? Or your
I don't
microphone
know,
speaker?
maybe,
I don't know. Maybe it's the cord hitting like the microphone,
maybe.
the mouth. I don't know. But every time you move it, I think it's the cord that hits it, and it's like making a clicking noise. It's
Okay,
good now. It's good now though.
it's okay.
Yeah,
All
it's good
right,
now. I think it's the movement.
maybe.
You gotta be a statue. Um, I got another question. So, you're very talented. I really love your music, honestly. And everyone, by the way, everyone that's listening or watching it, anyone that's consuming this right now, all of his information will be in the description of the video itself. So if it's on YouTube, obviously the description. If it's on Facebook, yada yada yada. His socials, his contact info will be there. So if you want to check out his portfolio, check out his music, feel free to contact him directly or visit the links provided.
More things soon come.
Yeah. And so something that I want to kind of transition into is professionalism. And so you either make beats or music for your friends or your family, whatever. But let's say you want to transition into I don't know, into movies, or into, I don't know, a higher scale production companies or so forth.
Mm.
Have you entertained that idea as well? Are you more focused on independent creators, small time? Are you interested into seeing? Do you see yourself producing music for bigger movies or maybe even independent movies? But like, where do you see yourself in the grand scheme of things in terms of music production? Do you have a certain industry that you would like to work with? Stuff like that.
Mm, well, generally speaking, I would say if I could, like, let's say, get into like serious projects in general, it doesn't matter what it is. For me, it just would be like, let's say, very cool to like be involved in some big projects, right?
Yeah.
Whether it is like games or I don't know, movies or whatever, like, or even let's say maybe like songwriting
Yeah.
with some artists. So that would be just interesting for me. I mean, I'm like, I don't know. Right now, I'm like,
Because
I cannot say I'm really professional because it's just like my I'm doing this in my free time basically, right? So if I can get to some kind of semi-professionalism, that would be like a great thing, I would say, for me personally.
a
Yeah,
nice goal. And the reason why I'm
yeah,
asking is because some people um, like gaming type of music. You know, they like making the
yeah,
scores of gaming. Some people like to work with artists. Some people like to work one on one with another person instead of just like a
right.
company or something like that, an entity. They like to work um, with an individual. Some people like to make it with a movie. So it just depends on your preference, I guess. But you're not kind of like focused on one thing. It's just like if the opportunity arises and it's interesting to you, then you'll
Yeah,
take it. Okay.
definitely. Well, I mean, obviously, um, working in a big company is always like, probably not as exciting as like working with somebody on a personal level, because in the end, it's just like in a big company, you get like a task and then delivery time in a month,
Yeah.
and that's it most of the time, right?
Yeah.
Like
Hey, if you're doing it
if
for
you
like
get
a Disney movie,
right, if you get the shit
hey,
ton of money, so who cares, right?
hey, I'll take the bag. You know, I'll make a little musical note for a dancing teapot.
Yeah, but I can tell you, I think like a lot of Disney guys, they're probably very, very much involved in the movies, I would say,
Mm,
especially when it comes to like Disney movies.
yeah,
Yeah, I think.
they've
I mean, a
always
lot of
been.
people. Yeah,
Sorry.
they're like very. I mean, basically because they like Disney movies are like always about like music stuff, right?
Mm.
This played always a very big role. So I think they're very much involved in all this,
Yeah.
like creating music and all,
How
all
I
the
see
stuff.
music. So this is, and then I'll get to you right after. How I see music. I love music. I love hip hop. I love K-pop. I love. Actually, I love reggae. I love dancehall. I have a lot of different tastes in music. Japanese opening songs, ending songs, whatever. Like I love it all as long as it has a
Anime
catchy,
stuff, yeah.
yeah, has a catchy melody, good beats. I really do love it. So how I view music though is, so I'm a story oriented type of dude. I love making stories, obviously. I love marketing. I love communication in general. Communicating with people, communicating with a large audience, whatever. And how I see music is obviously another form of communication. You're telling a story. You're honestly telling a story. Like there's no words involved, right? There's no pictures involved. It's all
Yeah,
audio. Um, and I look at it as like a story, a form of storytelling. Where you could feel the emotions from any type of music. Like honestly, you could feel the emotion. Sometimes you could even feel like the hard work that's put into creating every beat just by the little nuances that occur. Like I don't know, you hear like a sound effect that appears once in the song, maybe near the beginning, and then it appears again near the end. Like you kind of see those, you kind of hear those, the differences in each beat. How do
right.
you view music? Do you view it as a way of just expressing yourself in general? Do you view it as a story as well? How do you see music, or how do you yeah, how do you view music as a whole?
Well, music, like in a philosophical sense,
In your
uh,
sense, in your
yeah.
in your sense, how do you view it?
I mean, I would say music to me on a very fundamental level is like geometry, like architecture.
Oh shit.
It's basically about, yeah, it's basically about like form and relations. This is like the very fundamental blocks of music, right? I mean the scales, the tones we have right now is just like basically different relations of well, basically different mathematical relations. And then obviously on a level above that, then comes all the, let's say, what you said, like storytelling and like emotions and the stuff. And even above that,
Oh shit.
like it's interesting that you mentioned that, like different sounds, because uh, today I feel like a lot of like music is actually about not only like, let's say, to write a melody on a very simple level. It's actually to like create different new sounds and different like new effects. Like if you listen a lot to like modern, let's say, film scores or like trailer music, uh, or even like game music too, uh, you have like basically on a musical level there isn't too much going on often,
Yeah.
but there are like on the sound level and on the effect level there are like a lot of things happening. So yeah, I think like in the end, like that's all kind of music to me. So it's difficult, yeah, and it's
You break it
and
down in like
everything.
tiers. Like you have the foundation, as you mentioned, and then you have like the second level, which is kind of like what I alluded to was the storytelling. So you have it in like
Yeah,
math, like 1001. Like you put this here, you like sequences. You're thinking it as like I don't know how you're thinking it, but it's like sequences. And then on top of that,
yeah.
you kind of have like the message that you want to portray. And then on top of that, you said something else. I don't even know what after that.
The effects.
Effects,
That's
effects,
no.
sorry, and the sound
I
effects.
mean, yeah.
Well,
It's just no, I was basically because also like of electronic music. Like right now, the music we are producing is basically electronic music, right? Even like if I have like a big, like a nice piano sound or an orchestral piece,
yeah,
most of the time it's still produced on the computer, right?
yep.
Just recorded some violins and stuff. But and obviously, since it's all produced on the PC, you can basically uh, use all kinds of different effects and tweak the sounds and make the violins to sound like whatever and the piano sound. So you have like in the last, I don't know, like 30-40 years, there's, I would say, like a new layer of music where you have a lot of um, new things happening because of this of the possibilities of the computer, basically.
Yeah,
If you wanted
technology.
to put it down, yeah,
The
right,
computer itself and the
technology,
program,
yeah,
and then. But yeah, okay, cool. We all have a program. We all have access to this, right? Um, but it's
right,
about how you use it. So it's not even just like okay, cool. Like a guy, it's a skill that each person possesses, and the amount of time that you spend or invest in learning new techniques and challenging yourself and pushing yourself to the next level. Because so many people kind of get it caught in the same loop, and they do the same thing over and over again, and then until they get criticism sometimes, or yeah,
yeah,
someone mentions it in their comment section or in person, like hey, I noticed that you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. They kind of get caught in the same loop. So well, but then like you mentioned before, it's like sometimes someone will invent something new, or a new program comes out with like a whole set of new plugins, and you're just like, holy crap, a new library of like goodies. Sometimes it's
right,
overwhelming though, because you're like, holy crap, there's like 1,000 new things that I gotta like go through. But it's all mindset at the end
definitely,
of the day. Like, if push yourself to the next level and stay on top, you got to do it. I and that kind of brings me to the next point is like when you have so many different options to you, sometimes it's overwhelming, especially for a new producer, a new person that wants to make music, right? They want to entertain the idea of making music for friends, family, for business. They have so many different challenges. It's like, holy crap, there's so much information. Where do I begin? For you, what were some of the challenges that you had starting when you first started, and then kind of transition that into like some of the challenges that you have now? So we'll begin with like what were some of the issues, if you could remember, like far back, what were some of the issues that you came across when you first started making music, and transition that into like present day, some challenges that you have.
Well, my first problem was probably I don't know if my first problem.
Any
It's just
challenges? Not even a
yeah,
problem.
right.
Yeah.
A challenge was always. It's been actually always a challenge. Is that I rewrite a lot of stuff because I tend to not like it after a while.
Oh,
This is because I probably, but my problem is because I wait too long. Maybe if I would finish the project sooner, maybe it wouldn't happen. But the thing is, like, sometimes I like if you listen again to something, then I'm thinking like, would that actually sound good or work good? And then often I like scrap it completely, delete it, and then start again with something new. So this is a tricky thing. But well, I don't know. In the end, you just improve by trying new things out, and then after a while you just get better and better. But another tricky thing is it's like a technical thing where, as I mentioned before, when you basically you want to sound like a certain thing in a way,
yeah.
and you cannot like recreate the sound that you have like in your head. So you can basically like try all kinds of different plugins and mixing, and in the end you just try to get as close as you can to that what you actually want. You probably never get there, but if you have the money, you can try out all kind of different plugins until maybe you get this. The problem, I guess, most of us don't have unlimited amounts of money, so it's like try.
Like self-awareness, like understanding like the limits, how far you can go.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Exactly.
this is as close as it is in my head. I'm okay with it. Let me put it down and let me move on.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. This is actually also a very, I think, important thing, like, knowing when to basically to move on. If you like
To let go.
rework some kind of thing, then in the end you just like beat it to death, and then it's even worse than when you started. So it's definitely a very important thing, just to say, okay, this is as close as I can get, as you said, and just to move on. But yeah, like trying out all kind of new plugins, and then to try to to achieve the sound that you are trying to go for. Yeah, this is always like challenging, because like in the end you're basically working on a computer with a keyboard,
Yeah.
and you are trying to replicate the sound of, like, especially if you try to replicate the sound of very dynamic instruments,
Yeah.
like violins and flutes. It can be very challenging, definitely. But
It's the same issue. Like it's not even an issue. It's just as when I write anything, I do it a couple times. I try not to do it 1,000 times. Like I'll try to, because at the end of the day, it's like you try your best, and then you just put it out. Don't second think it.
Yeah.
You try your best. Like, this is the amount of time I invested into it, and then you put it out. That's it. And then you move on to the next thing. Like when I first started, there's so many times where I'm like, I need to make the perfect. Like when I'm promoting my stuff, I need to make the perfect one-liner that fits
Yeah.
perfectly, that has like X amount of words, so it's not too wordy. And then I would like do it 1,000 times, and I'll redo it, redo it, redo it. And then nowadays it's like I have something in my mind already, or I think a few minutes about it, a few days about it. I post it, and I don't look back. I don't look back because like there's no point. I don't look back.
Yeah.
When I'm writing anything like now, when I script write, sometimes I look back at my older works and I'm just like, whoa, I would change that up now.
Yes, obviously,
And
always.
obviously, or like an old video, I'm like, whoa, boy, don't do that. And that what I do now though, since I always look back and I'm like, okay, I could change that, right? You're always gonna do that. Now I don't even. Sometimes like I have like a few chapters that are completed but not released yet. I will make that sit and marinate for a few weeks, for a few days. I look back at it with a different perspective, and then I'm just like, but I try not to tweak everything. 'Cause like you said, like if you change everything, then you kind of beat it to death. So sometimes I would change a few words, but I don't try to like scrap the whole thing and redo it, because like that state of mind of when I was writing that a piece of art, writing that work, obviously is different from what I am today. So try to look back at like how my mindset, how my feelings were at then, just kind of refine it. So instead of changing it, the whole thing, just refine, and then just put it down. And don't even overthink it. Just refine it and then move on. And that's kind of like the challenges that I deal with. Like
Also, it's interesting that often it's kind of you have to how to say, you have to capture that right moment.
yeah,
Often, if you have like an idea and you are in a certain mood, then the best thing is to write that like down or record it as fast as you can, and then basically, leave it as it is and just maybe like tweak a couple of things, but don't rework it too much, because often it gets worse.
exactly.
It's like an interesting thing, like if you have a good idea, or you think, hey, that sounds kind of interesting, then write it down or record it and then leave it, because like, let's say if you say, oh yeah, that's an interesting idea, but I will record it maybe tomorrow, and tomorrow you're in a different mood, and it most of the time it will not work. It will be kind of different, and it won't be the same. So it's kind of interesting that I noticed this myself, that often you want to like capture it when it's like fresh,
Yeah.
and when it's new, and if you like think too much over it, it will become something else, and then probably it's not even good anymore.
I have a new process of writing. Like, so I'm gonna be writing a new story. I'm working on a third comic that will be free for everyone to read. I want to write this a little bit differently though, cause all my stories are from past experiences personally, past experiences from like my friends, like the experiences that they've told me that they went through, and I kind of incorporate some of those ideas into my story. Some of them are from other shows, like inspiration from other shows, movies, games, whatever. But for this new comic that I want to work on, there's certain topics that I want to like travel a bit more and interview, because there's like a few characters that I'm going to be introducing in my story, right? And it's all theoretical. Like, I've seen movies about these types of people, I've heard stories about these type of people, but I never talked to them personally. I never talked to, like, I don't know, let's say there's a drug dealer in my story. I want to talk to a drug dealer that won't rob me or kill me. I don't know, but I like, I want to get like first party information straight from that person's mouth rather than like theoretical. So like I'm gonna be approaching like my new comic, like if there's like I don't know, a strip club in my new comic, right? I'm gonna go to a strip club and experience it firsthand. I don't know, just playing, but I want to experience it firsthand and
Right.
talk to the people firsthand. Have you ever entertained that type of idea? Like, I don't know. It may be different from making music, but I guess for you, it's like if you're making an action scene, you're not gonna freaking cause trouble with someone, have a fist fight
Yeah.
with someone, and then understand like
You don't need to shoot some people to make a war movie, right?
So I don't know. It's a little bit different for me, but Have you ever like, I don't know, maybe switch locations to get inspiration? Like, how do you get your
Well,
inspiration essentially for your
it's
music?
well, I mean, it can be definitely a very inspirational thing to work with all kinds of different, musicians.
Yeah.
That's definitely that can be actually very helpful. And if you like look into all kinds of different, like big movies, big games, often there are actually like two or three people who are like, let's say, write a score for a music. Like you probably have just like one big name on the screen in the end, but most of the time there are actually like a couple of people, because it definitely it helps. um, just like that, somebody might come up with a great idea for one part, and another can come up with a great idea for another part, and that can be definitely inspirational. But when it comes to like generally like inspiration for music, I mean, it can be like basically just something you are
Yeah.
listening to,
Yeah.
and then just let's say, oh, maybe I could make music in that kind of style, but I would like to make it a little bit different in that way. S- or you have like, let's say, an instrument, so you have your all kind of different instruments on your computer, and then you just basically try, different things, all kind of different things
Do you
out with the instrument.
play?
So you just
Do you? Sorry for cutting you off. Do you play any instruments outside of like the programs? Like, do you have a guitar in the background? Do you have a
I have
piano?
a guitar and a piano,
Oh
yes.
shit.
Well, when it comes to physical
Yeah, physical
instruments.
instruments.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
But obviously, most of the things is just like over the master keyboard,
yeah.
which is,
Do you record any of the
basically,
instruments? Like, you hook it up to your hardware and you like record like a note?
yes, sometimes.
Sometimes you do that. I
Yeah,
didn't even know that.
especially like when it comes to like the guitar, I can basically just, you know, plug in into my sound card, and
I
then
didn't even
just
know
also
that.
like,
Oh.
do you hear? Is my mic okay?
Yeah, yeah, your mic's
Because
good.
I feel it's again.
No, your mic's good. Your mic's good.
Um, yeah, basically you can like also like add all kinds of effects, like distort the guitar or whatever you want. So yeah, when I like write something for the guitar, I can just basically play it myself. Yeah, and obviously I feel like it sounds most of the time better than just use plugins, because often like the plugins, especially when it comes to like a solo instrument, so an individual instrument, often it's very difficult to make it real, to sound it like
Perfect. Like
very
exactly how
realistic.
it
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
there are obviously plugins which sound amazing, but it's not that easy. You have to often tweak a lot of stuff and work with the sound to make it sound actually
I
real.
want to see you within 10 years. I want to see you have your own studio. Like, you already have a studio, of course, inside your room, inside your house.
Yeah,
Within
home
your,
studio,
I
something
want to
like
have
this.
your external studio, where you could hire so many different artists that play the different instruments. They play it firsthand. You record it and you create a song with
That would be the
all
best thing, right?
organic, authentic instruments. That's the
Yeah.
dream, and it's gonna be showcased in a movie or a game, a big budget. You're gonna have a big budget, and you're gonna do that. I want to see that happen within, because that would be the dream for me too. It's
Yeah, that would be great. Absolutely.
just to write out
This
one
is
song with all
yeah.
authentic instruments.
Actually like a lot of like big budget, games or music. They record actually.
Yeah.
They write the script, and then they record actually like,
They have like an
physical
orchestra
instruments.
in
Yeah,
in
exactly.
their studio, and
But
then
yeah, obviously this is like a very
wow, that
this
within
is
10
it
years, dude.
costs a lot of money.
Yeah, it costs. Don't worry, you'll get that big budget, and then like within 10 years, you'll
Yeah,
definitely do that.
and then it's all uphill from there.
Yeah, like that's the dream. Holy crap! We're
Exactly.
winding down the end. We're near the end of this podcast, so I just have maybe one or two questions, and then we'll end it off here. So for me, right now, as you know, we've talked about this plenty of times. I'm getting to the point of I've had this company for about a year, and the first few months were kind of rocky. As with everything, when you first try it out, the first few months, like I didn't know
Absolutely.
how to find a music producer such as yourself, a producer in general. I didn't know how to find the artists to help me convey the messages and the story that I have in my mind. An editor, I have someone that I could call an editor and they could revise, like a third party, not my family, not my friends. Um,
Yeah.
you know, it was hard for me to set the foundation for my company and to get it to where it is right now. For you, I know you're a freelancer essentially. You have a full time job, and this is right now a hobby, a part time job for you. Um, it's difficult being a freelancer. Do you have any tips for yourself? Like looking back at it, like do you have any tips for everyone in general as well? Like how to kind of differentiate yourself from other artists? Because right now you're at a point in life where in your career where you want to differentiate yourself and get bigger jobs, more jobs. Um, what's some of the tips that you could give other artists who are in the same position as you, kind of to differentiate themselves, either through marketing, obviously the quality of the music. I don't know. Any ideas that come across your mind?
Well, I think it's like with most things, I would say the most important thing is probably listen to the big names who are producing, let's say, music or art or whatever. Look what they are doing and how they sound. Uh, at least on a, I mean, not basically. You don't want to like recreate their sound, but I mean on a professional level. So how to get as close as possible to that professional, sound or whatever. Like if let's say if you are drawing, you want to see how the pros what they are doing, so you can try to get as close as possible to that level, and then from that on just make probably absolutely the best portfolio you can make. This is obviously like the most important thing, I would say. And from then just try to reach out and get out, as much as you can, so people can see and hear you, and eventually, offer you like to work with them on a project, right? So
And
this is like the most important thing, I would say.
so, yeah. So everyone that's listening right now, um, whenever I want to differentiate my comics personally, I not only do I put out a lot of posts on every single social media. I post like 2 or 3 times a day, but I'm also messaging every single one of my followers, everyone that's supporting me. I'm messaging them, checking up on them, seeing how they're doing on their day to day. I'm letting them know whenever a new content's about to be posted or that is posted, and you kind of build a natural network or a natural connection
Yeah.
with your followers. So the portfolio is important. Obviously, have the content, so improve every single day. Learn from
Yes.
the leaders. Learn from
Absolutely.
competitors.
This is very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like very two important things, like what you said, like trying to get out and so people can see and hear you,
Yeah.
and obviously your the technical stuff. So
You have to be good. Straight up.
yeah,
You
exactly.
gotta be good.
Just be good, right?
Work
This
hard,
is so
get good.
yeah, the basic message.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you want to listen, or to say when you're writing music, listen to the best guys who are out there, and then really try to understand what is like, why is it good. So obviously we can agree there are probably a lot of overrated people who just are like very known because they have a lot of people marketing their stuff, but there are also a lot of people who are actually good and they deserve to be on on the top level. And just listen to their stuff or look up why they are good and what is it what they are doing that makes them really the best, and try to learn from this and then work on your stuff.
Yeah, like I don't make stories because I want to copy, the leading companies, leading people in the industry. I do it because I love anime, I love comics, I love
Yeah,
manga,
exactly.
so I love that, and then that's one avenue. But also, like, I see that there's a missing piece that I want to fill. Like, whenever I watch a show, for instance, this is the biggest thing, Andreas. Like, honestly, whenever I watch a movie, I watch an anime, I listen to music, I'm like, yo, this is dope. This is really good. I really, really love it. But I would have done it differently in this aspect.
Yeah.
And when
Yes, definitely.
when
Yeah.
I noticed that, I'm like, this is my turn to let me portray the image, or let me create the need like that I have for myself. Honestly, like whenever I watch an anime and I'm like, yo, this is a sick fight, or the dialogue between these two characters is so emotional, like I've cried. But leading up to that, this is what I would have done differently, and that's when I decided I'm gonna create my own stories, because like I have my own message that I want to convey, and I love and I respect the industry leaders, the competitors in general, and I'm a competitor as well. So I want to do something that I think would be better, or to satisfy a personal need, and also a need that I believe other people have as well. So when I create content, that's why I create content. One of the reasons is because I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have
you
to differentiate yourself by
exactly.
doing that as well. Like,
Learn the techniques from the pros, but
yes.
it's not about like just copying some guy. Then it's boring. Nobody wants it. I mean, why would you? If you copy some stuff, then why would anybody be interested in that? It's basically a copy, right? Just it's about learning techniques, and obviously then you have to improve yourself,
Yep.
and then create your own stuff basically. Yeah, this is an important thing. Like, if you're not like interested in creating your own stuff, then obviously you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, like,
When it comes to creating stuff, then you have to have like some kind of a visionary
yeah,
idea
you
or
have to
something
be
like
like,
this.
some people are not competitors, right?
Yeah.
Some people like to be second place. Like, that's how the world runs. There's leaders, there's supporters. That's just how the ecosystem works. Some people are competitors. Some people really do like to are cheerleaders. That's
Lay back. Yeah,
there's
exactly.
nothing wrong with that. But when you're in like a music industry or any like competitive, like, okay, believe it or not, most things in life is competition. You're getting someone's attention over another person, regardless.
Absolutely.
You're doing something to get something over another person. That's just life, right? So whether or not you're a super competitive person, everything that you do does correlate or conflict with someone else, regardless. So it's about differentiating yourself in that aspect. You don't have to be the biggest person in the room, like, yo, listen to all my stuff, give me all the attention. But like, at the same time, do it within your own personality. Like, you could be the quiet dude in the laid back. Just make your music, make your craft. Hire someone that is the loud mouth. Like, you could make your music, be the creative. Hire someone or to market it for you. Hire someone to be the loud person, right? Or if you are that loud person but you don't necessarily have like the techniques or the fundamentals to carry out every single execute, or to create the message in the first place, hire someone to do it. So like, if you lack something, then get someone to compensate as well. Like, you don't have to be someone that you're not. So
You don't have to be in one-man army, basically.
yeah, one-man army.
It's just
have as much control as you can in life over your own destiny. But if you need help in other aspects, then reach out for help. Like, what the hell?
It's just, in the end, it's like, I would say it's impossible to do like everything unless you have. I mean,
Possible.
at some point you have to sleep, I would say.
Yeah, like, unless you're like living on an island by yourself, and you have to do everything yourself. Like, I get it, but you're not. You're living in a society. You're like you're living amongst everyone. So just use the stuff available to you. Everything. I think that's a great way to end it, dude. That was amazing. Thank you again for stopping by. His
Thank
name
you.
is Andreas. All his social media and all the information regarding him is going to be in the description. Please, guys, check him out. If you need any work done, like if you need songs, if you're an artist and you need a beat created, like message him. Say, hey, what's up? I'm an artist. This is my stuff. I would like your help with that. If you're creating a game, hit him up. You need some background music, an action sequence, I don't know, whatever you need. Hit him up.
If you make a movie,
If you make a movie, which I know he loves the most, if you're making a movie, please, guys, hit him up. Even if it's like an indie film, like a small, big, medium, whatever, like, hit him up. Andreas, do you have any final words as well for everyone?
well, just
Any
be
last
good,
words?
right? No, not really. I mean, in the end, I think you should enjoy what you're doing. This is because then it shows also like in your work. If you hate the projects you're working on, then the project will be shitty.
Yep.
This is like probably the final words I have to say. Like what you're doing, and then it will be good.
Yeah, it's like working at like that job, that part-time job or full-time job, and you don't want to be there, so you do the bare minimum so you don't get fired.
Absolutely.
What's the fun in that? Anyways, guys, thank you so
Exactly.
much. Andreas, thanks again, and we'll see you guys on
Thank
the
you.
next episode.